We have a massive New York Knicks trade update as a report from Ian Begley has revealed 3 trade targets in Nick Richards, Jonas Valanciunas, and Goga Bitadze, who the New York Knicks could pursue at the trade deadline as the Knicks look to solidify their big man position outside of Karl Anthony Towns, especially with there being a bunch of questions about Mitchell Robinson's future with the New York Knicks with the injury and with potential trade rumors, and we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and if you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe. Helps me out a bunch. 27% of fans are subscribed. Let's get those numbers up, but more importantly, let's jump in and talk about some basketball. Ian Begley has revealed multiple different trade targets for the New York Knicks come this deadline, while teams are beginning to figure out if they're contending, if they're rebuilding, who they're going to move, who's untouchable. All that stuff is being figured out now, as you've already seen 1 or 2 trades happen this year. For instance, Thomas Bryant getting dealt to the Indiana Pacers. We have seen trade season begin, and the New York Knicks like to strike a little bit before the NBA trade deadline, so we have to stay on our toes with the New York Knicks. They made the trade for OG Anunoby in December. They made the Josh Hart trade in January. The Knicks do like to start early with their trades, and we could see that happen again, and there are some very good ideas for the New York Knicks. Now, what Begley mentioned is the fact that based on the Knicks' approach in the offseason, he would assume they would have interest in Jonas Valanciunas, Goga Bitadze, and Nick Richards if they are unsure of Mitchell Robinson's health. All of those centers were on the Knicks' radar in the offseason. Now, real quick, guys, just something to mention. These are all guys who the Knicks did have interest in earlier on over the summer. And we saw a few different guys like Nick Richards, who the Knicks have had persistent interest in. And we're going to talk about Nick Richards, and here's why. Because, and we'll make this a little bit bigger, you guys will keep talking about Nick Richards, so I asked a bunch of people in the comments if you guys want a Nick Richards video. Well, here we go. Let's do this thing. Let's talk about the guy, Nick Richards. Nick Richards is the guy, as we see right here. No one else but Nick Richards. I'm on point with my needing Nick Richards, which I appreciate being told I'm on point, but I really just put it in because I searched up Nick Richards in the comments, and that's what came up. But also, just seeing a ton of comments discussing how Nick Richards is an important player for the New York Knicks to target, and I could not agree more. Nick Richards is everything the New York Knicks could need. He could block shots. He could score at the post. He could get rebounds really well. He's from New York. It all works out well that the New York Knicks should pursue Nick Richards, especially when he's on a really easy contract to trade. But we'll get into more of that stuff later. Real quick on Valanciunas, and we'll talk about him a little bit. I do like Valanciunas as a player. I think he's a very solid role player on a contending team. Right now, he's on the Wizards because they paid him the most. He's going to get dealt. He knows he's going to get dealt. He's saying all the right things. And just to take a quick look at what Jonas Valanciunas puts up, he is a solid player this season. 12 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 55% from the field, 16% from 3, though he hardly ever shoots threes. He's a really good mid-range shooter. He's a very solid player. I'm a fan of Valanciunas, don't get me wrong. My big problem with Jonas Valanciunas is he does not fit the Knicks' need. The Knicks need rim protecting more than they need another scoring big man. Plus, having Karl Anthony Towns makes Jonas Valanciunas a little bit redundant, both with what's good and with the problems the New York Knicks would have. So I'm not really on the Valanciunas trade for a trade. I think there's a bunch of teams that will be interested in Valanciunas, and the Wizards will get something nice for Jonas, and Jonas will end up on a contender, or maybe the Lakers, who are sort of a contender because LeBron and AD are there, but it's always hard to read with them. Now, real quick, Goga Bitadze, not happening. The Orlando Magic are good. I'm not saying that Ian Begley is saying, oh, they really want Goga Bitadze. Begley highlighted Bitadze because the Knicks have had interest in him. Look, I imagine the Knicks still have interest in Bitadze and would trade for him if they could. There's no way the Orlando Magic trade him this season. The Magic are having a good year. They've had so many injuries. Bitadze has been a very, very consistent pillar of the team this season. Great rim protection, great rebounding, completely different player than he was when he came into the NBA. He's more of a stretch big with very little defense. I have no idea how he completely transformed into the polar opposite of that, but he did it, and good for Bitadze, as now he's had a consistent role with the Orlando Magic, and we're happy for him. Now, Leon Rose and the New York Knicks are going to have to figure out how to make a trade for someone, and I think the guy is totally 1,000% Nick Richards. On the season, Nick Richards is putting up 8.8 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, and shooting 56% from the field. His defensive box plus minus is positive, despite the fact that the Hornets have been a brutal team. He has been some consistent shot blocking and defense for him. He does come off the bench for Mark Williams. That's why his shot blocking numbers are not higher. There are some fans who just think Nick Richards is not a very good player and does not have the stuff. From what I've seen, I think Nick Richards is an awesome player. He catches lobs well. He's a good rebounder. He's a good shot blocker. It's the things the Knicks need out of another big man. He comes off the bench really well. And obviously, once Mitchell Robinson comes back, you can't play them together, but you can play one of them with Karl Anthony Towns, and you could always DNP Richards, informing him that next season they'll either trade him over the offseason or they will find something for Mitchell Robinson via a trade and keep Richards around so Ariel Huckporty can have another year to develop and potentially end up taking Richards' role once it's the final year of Richards' contract. He's got 2 years left on his deal, $5 million per year. He's just a perfect pickup for a contending team, especially a team like the New York Knicks that needs rebounding and could just use a very consistent presence at big man, and I think Nick Richards does both those things for the New York Knicks at a very good level. Nick Richards, I mean, he's just a consistent center, and he drives to the paint well. His touch around the rim is something that I'm a big fan of. The man likes to score at the rim. He's got a nice little post game going. He worked hard with Chris Begley. He's very comfortable training with guys who have Knicks connections, meaning he's totally known a bunch of the other Knicks because Begley trains a bunch of the Knicks. So it does make sense. I mean, he rolls off screens well. He gets offensive rebounds really well. He just does all the things you want out of a guy if you need to replace Mitchell Robinson because he's either hurt or you're trading him away. I still don't think the Knicks are going to trade Mitch until the offseason, but it is something interesting to look at with Nick Richards. I mean, he just does all the right things. He just cleans up the glass. I mean, look at him tipping the ball out to Seth Curry and getting it to LaMelo Ball and then tipping it back in the basket again. Nick Richards is just a great solid player on a team that has another nice young center who's just younger than Nick, and everything leads to Nick Richards needing to get traded off the Hornets so he could have a better situation. I love Nick Richards as an idea. That's not Nick Richards. That's not Nick Richards. This is Nick Richards. There we go. I love Nick Richards as the trade idea for the New York Knicks. He's a perfect idea for a trade, and here's why I think it's very realistic that the New York Knicks will be acquiring Nick Richards at the trade deadline or sooner. Now, first of all, we know the Knicks need another player. We know the Knicks need to get deeper, and GM Jeff Peterson had not been hired yet when the Hornets started the purge of veterans last deadline, including Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, and Gordon Hayward. Yes, somehow last year Gordon Hayward was on the Charlotte Hornets. That wasn't 25 years ago. The three separate trades brought back 2 first-round picks and 2 seconds. Now, a month from the deadline, does Peterson consider Richards expendable, or now that Mark Williams is healthy, or does Williams' lengthy injury history have Richards as an insurance policy at center? In 9 starts this season, he's averaged 11 points and 10 rebounds per game. Richards has one of the better valued contracts, $5 million for both this season and the next one, as we mentioned. This is from NBA Insiders via Sports Illustrated. The person did not want to reveal their source. That's fine. Totally understandable. Now, I think this just leads to a perfect storm. If you should trade Nick Richards, why do you need big man insurance on a team that's going nowhere fast? The Hornets felt like a team that might be able to make the play in this season because they have once before with LaMelo Ball, but injuries struck, things went to just a terrible place. And then from there, the New York Knicks. From there, the New York Knicks can now pounce on a team that really just does not have the stuff to do anything but continue tanking and try to capture the flag. So it makes sense to trade Nick Richards because he's someone who benefits the team positively. Now, here is something else to think about. According to Evan Sidery, the Hornets are receiving trade interest from teams on Cody Martin and Nick Richards. Martin and Richards are on affordable contracts through the 2025-26 season, which makes them very appealing trade targets to contenders in exchange for second-round draft capital, meaning Nick Richards' value isn't absurdly high, and the Knicks can find multiple trades to bring Nick Richards to the team. Now, here's 2 ideas that I have to acquire Nick Richards. You just trade Precious and a second rounder or 2 for Nick Richards. Boom, problem solved. I know Precious is nice. I'm not saying I want to get rid of Precious. I'm just saying I'd rather a more traditional big man than Precious Achiuwa. Also, I do just think Nick Richards is better than Precious. Not saying anything negative about Precious at all. I just think Nick Richards is heavily underrated, and on a good team, he would just really break out. Especially a team that has excellent big man coaching like the New York Knicks, who have guys like Mark Bryant and Othella Harrington there who have been excellent development, and Tom Thibodeau included as well. Excellent big man development. He's from Kentucky. There's that Kentucky connection there that the Knicks still kind of have because of William Wesley. There's a lot going on for Nick Richards that it feels like him going to the Knicks would be a perfect storm for both the New York Knicks and Richards' career entirely. So it is something to very much keep in mind. Now, there's another trade, and I made a little proposal on this one, where the New York Knicks acquire Cody Martin and Nick Richards in exchange for Mitchell Robinson and 2 second-round picks. The reason the Knicks are taking 2 second-round picks is because they're acquiring 2 players. Mitchell Robinson would be used as trade bait for the Charlotte Hornets, either flipping him before the deadline or wait until the offseason and flipping him again. Now, if Mitch comes back, his numbers would inflate through the roof, having LaMelo Ball throw him lobs. Mitch would be great. The Hornets miss a lot of shots. Mitch would clean it up as the best offensive rebounder in basketball. I'm not saying I love this trade, but if the Knicks really can't trust Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy, this is a very, very solid move for them to move forward and to also cut a little bit of money. You cut $1.3 million. You have 15 guys on the roster. You could make a wave. You could waive someone. You get to keep Precious Achiuwa, who's a nice tweener. Then you have Jericho Sims, who you can move for a protected second-round pick. You add another $2 million. You have $3 million there. And then you could sign TJ Warren. That is a better team, and it is a deeper team than the current New York Knicks team that has a lot of concerns when talking about depth. Now, also, just to go back over something very quickly with Richards' numbers, you get this guy. You instantly get 9 points per game and 7.5 rebounds and a blocked shot that were not on the New York Knicks prior because Mitchell Robinson has not played a game for the New York Knicks. And on top of that, you get Cody Martin, who gets a chance to bounce back on the season, especially from 3 with the New York Knicks. He provides solid defense. His three-point shot has not been falling this season, but he's still averaging 8 points and 5 rebounds per game with 2 assists. He's getting over a steal per game as a very solid defender. He gives the Knicks good defense. He gives them a nice guy who can create for himself a little bit, especially in the mid-range, and also can hit threes to a degree. Obviously not this season, but he is a competent three-point shooter, and the New York Knicks might help him tap into that, which would be very, very helpful for them. It would be a really nice trade if you ask me. I think it works out for everyone really well, and I think the New York Knicks would absolutely be a better team than they are right now, and a deeper team so Tom Thibodeau can stop with this 8-man rotation stuff. But I want to hear from you guys. There's the Nick Richards video. Believe me, I really wanted to make it as well, so I'm happy you guys asked for it. Guys, if you ever have any video requests, make sure to comment them down below. I will make it. If you guys want something specific, I guarantee I will make that video. So let me know down below. I got a video coming out because my guy Charlie Nix asked for it. That'll get out in the next few days. I am sick. I'm moving a little slow. But let me know anything in the comments down below. What do you think of this? All that stuff. Have a great day, guys. Subscribe, post notifications. That's what I mean by all that stuff. Go Knicks!